All right, we are live. Let me just double check here that everything's working appropriately. All right. Let's put that, let's make sure that volume is coming out of my headphones. All right. So I can. All righty then. Let's get this going. All right, so yesterday we covered chapters 1 through 8, and today we're going to cover chapters, let's get this, chapter 9. Chapter 9 through however far we get to in the next roughly 4 hours. All right. Chapter 9. All right, so what I'm doing here, I'm a former Christian. I have great respect for the Bible. I do believe in God. I do believe that Jesus is the most important man that has ever walked the earth. And I have great reverence for the book. However, I do believe that it is written by human beings that are just as flawed as you and I. And so we're just going through it and reading and studying, and the whole point of this is eventually for me to do a recap, my impressions, essentially my review on Genesis. So these are just study streams where I just go through, read chapter by chapter. I'll be taking notes and just giving my thoughts on the material. All right, so here we go. Let's get all nice and cozy like. All right. Chapter 9, verse 1. And God blessed Noah and his sons and said to them, Be fruitful and multiply and fill the earth. The fear of you and the dread of you shall be upon every beast of the earth, and upon every bird of the heavens, upon everything that creeps on the ground, and all the fish of the sea. Into your hand they are delivered. Every moving thing that lives shall be food for you. And as I gave you the green plants, I give you everything. But you shall not eat flesh with its life, that is, its blood. So don't eat the blood. And for your blood, and for your lifeblood, I will require a reckoning. From every beast, I will require it from every man, or from man. From his fellow man, I will require a reckoning for the life of man. All right. Whoever sheds the blood of man, by man shall his blood be shed. For God made man in his own image. And you, be fruitful and multiply, increase greatly on the earth, and multiply in it. Then God said to Noah and his sons with him, Behold, I establish my covenant with you and your offspring after you, and with every living creature that is with you, the birds, the livestock, and every beast of the earth with you, as many as came out of the ark, for it is for every beast of the earth. I establish my covenant with you, that never again shall all flesh be cut off by the waters of the flood, and never again shall be there a flood to destroy the earth. And God said, This is the sign of the covenant that I make between me and you, and every living creature that is with you, for all future generations. I have set my bow in the cloud, and it shall be a sign of the covenant between me and the earth. When I bring clouds over the earth, and the bow is seen in the clouds, I will remember my covenant that is between me and you and every living creature of all flesh, and the waters shall never again become a flood to destroy all flesh. When the bow is in the clouds, I will see it and remember the everlasting covenant between God and every living creature of all flesh that is on the earth. God said to Noah, "This is the sign of the covenant that I have established between me and all flesh that is on the earth." The sons of Noah who went forth from the ark were Shem, Ham, and Japheth. Ham was the father of Canaan. These three were the sons of Noah, and from these the people of the whole earth were dispersed. Noah began to be a man of the soil, and he planted a vineyard. He drank of the wine and drunk and lay uncovered in his tent. And Ham, the father of Canaan, saw the nakedness of his father and told his two brothers outside. Then Shem and Japheth took a garment, laid it on both their shoulders, walked backward and covered the nakedness of their father. Their faces were turned backward, and they did not see their father's nakedness. Interesting conclusion. When Noah woke from his wine and knew what his youngest son had done to him, he said, "Cursed be Canaan, a servant of servants shall he be to his brothers." He also said, "Blessed be the Lord, the God of Shem, and let Canaan be his servant. May God enlarge Japheth, and let him dwell in the tents of Shem, and let Canaan be his servant." After the flood, Noah lived 350 years. All the days of Noah were 950 years, and he died. Interesting, interesting. Give me 1 second, actually. I gotta take care of something. All right, we're back. All right, so be fruitful and multiply. All right. this almost feels like a reiteration somewhat. And it makes sense of the creation, like beginning of create this is like a renewal of creation in a way, because you're starting back with just you know, for the context of the Bible, a few humans supposedly left on Earth, and so God's giving just almost in a way reiterating, but also elaborating in some ways, such as you know, don't eat blood or drink blood, you know, uh, make sure it's a well done steak, let me tell you. Um, and also being like, look, be fruitful, multiply, have many, many children, which, you'll find a lot of traditional people in the Abrahamic faith really, you know, look at this, um, basically like a commandment, an order that this is what we need to do. We need to have many children. So this is, used quite often as a reason to have as many children as possible. All right, so I'm gonna let's see. Also, this is a very significant moment because this is the first time we're seeing God make a covenant, which is something that happens also with Abraham down the road and potentially other people. Again, obviously the covenant with Noah and the covenant with Abraham are probably the most, famous in the Bible as far as importance goes. Now this story right here, we get down to obviously the set my bow in the clouds, that's the rainbow, that's the classic sign from God that he will, this is the sign like a remembrance of the covenant. And if you kind of look at this, the covenant between God and Noah is really, because of its predates Abraham, can be looked at as a covenant between God and humanity as a whole. Because supposedly, if we're going by the biblical narrative, everyone is a descendant of Noah and his offspring. As far as I'm aware, as far as was being explained here, and as far as my knowledge is concerned, that's accurate. Mm-hmm. All right. Let's see. The rainbow. There it is. Oh, very nice, very nice. It was never meant to be used like that. That's it. Can I hear certain people like, that's not using the rainbow the way God intended. And you are correct. It's cultural appropriation on God's rainbow. Let's see. Yeah, this story is very strange to me. I'm sure that I'm probably missing some cultural context in this. And again, we're talking about a culture that existed potentially thousands of, not potentially, but at least thousands of years ago. Um, so Yeah, let me see. Okay, so no, hmm, no. Got drunk. He got drunk, and he was what was he doing? Drunk and naked. Maybe he was hot. I mean, sometimes when you drink a lot, feel flustered. You feel warm. So I guess you're probably like, all right, let's get these clothes off. I feel hot. And Ham, the father, came and told his two brothers outside. So basically, he's like, Ham, you a punk, because you basically had your brothers Shem and Japheth do the work when you were the first one to see that your father was naked. And you basically, I don't know if he ordered his brothers. I mean, is Ham the oldest? If his name comes first, I would kind of assume that the name's like, where is it? I swear we just read where it was like Ham. I mean, if the, you know, one would think you would say the oldest, the second oldest, and then the youngest in the text to show their order in, one would think. That's not a guarantee by any stretch. Um, so potentially Ham is the middle child, you know, and potentially he told his older and younger brother to do this, or I mean, clearly told his brothers what was going on, and then they took it upon themselves to do it. And maybe Noah was like, "You didn't do anything about this. You let this." His youngest son. Oh, and knew what is young. It's interesting they don't do Shem, Japheth, and Ham. That would make more sense to me. Um, huh. Done to him. How dare you tell your brothers and leave it to them to take care of it. Interesting. It's very strange. Maybe outside the text, Noah's like, if you ever see me naked, the first person to see me naked should cover me. Oh, how dare you. Very strange. Cursed be Canaan. Servant servant shall he be to his brothers. Again, this is a culture from long ago that maybe there's what would have been understood by people either being told this story way back when or reading it way back when. Maybe there's probably some kind of context that just isn't really being explained here because, I mean, that everybody would know why he would curse him. Everybody would understand why this is somehow affront to Noah or an insult or something like that, or disobeying some kind of order or something, you know. So, I'm assuming Noah isn't just like acting out of like some wild anger and is being unjust in his cursing. Now, cursing is always a little harsh, but it's like you could have just been like, yo, next time just do it yourself. But no, okay, Noah is not having it, not having it. Maybe this was the last straw with Ham. Maybe Ham has done similar things in the past that has made Noah unhappy or very angry, you know. And being the youngest, I mean, in a lot of cultures, he's already going to be a servant to his brothers. Why isn't he upset at his brothers for being like, yo, youngest brother, just go do it? Like, why are you getting us involved? Like, shouldn't it also be a little bit on them? I guess not. Um, let Canaan be his servant. May God enlarge the path and let him dwell in the tents of Shem. Let Canaan be his servant. Very well. I guess this is sort of alluding to who is the greatest grandfather of the Canaanites. Well, spoiler alert, they'll be coming up later. Again, take this all with a grain of salt. Historical accuracy still is we're not really don't put a lot of stake in this, but the claim, this is the story, this is how it goes, this is the claim. Interesting that he also said, "Blessed be the Lord, the God of Shem." Maybe acknowledging that Shem is the most pious of his sons, the one that is the most, seeking after God's approval or God's heart. And maybe Shem is the oldest, maybe oldest, youngest, middle, who knows? We'll just I don't know, we'll just write down. Also, you got to remember, like, this wasn't written down for a very long time, so this would have been a story that was told verbally for a very long time before it got written down, and how much of this kind of potential historical revisionism, because like this where it's sort of Ham was the father of Canaan. Canaan wasn't even really, wouldn't have been a people, a place, anything really like that. Really, I mean, you just got off the ark. Who knows, maybe just a bit ago. I mean, potentially, maybe this is like 50 years into the future, and maybe but it's very, very, again, grain of salt, grain of salt. All right, let's keep on rolling. Let me write this. All right, chapter 10. Here we go. These are the generations of the sons of Noah, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. Sons were born to them after the flood. The sons of Japheth, Gomer, Magog, Madai, Javan, Tubal, Meshech, and Tiras. I'm gonna butcher these so bad every time. The sons of Gomer, Ashkenaz, Riphath, and Togarmah. The sons of Javan, Elisha, Tarshish, Kittim, and Dodanim. Oh, good gracious. From these the coastland peoples spread in their lands, each with his own language, by their clans in their nations. The sons of Ham, Cush, Egypt, Put, and Canaan. The sons of Cush, Seba, Havilah, Sabta, Ramah, Ramama, Sabteka, The sons of Ramah, Sheba and Dedan. Cush fathered Nimrod. He was the first on earth to be a mighty man. Interesting. I believe I've heard Nimrod like before. Interesting. He was a mighty hunter before the Lord. Therefore it is said, like Nimrod, a mighty hunter before the Lord. All right. The beginning of his kingdom was Babel, Erech, Akkad, and Calneh in the land of Shinar. From that land he went into Assyria and built Nineveh. Reboth, Ir, Calah, and Rezin between Nineveh and Calah, that is the great city. Egypt followed Ludim, Anamim, Lehabim, Nephtuhim, Pathrusim, Kalsuhim, from whom the Philistines came, and Caphtorim. Canaan fathered Sedom, his firstborn, and Heth. And the Jebusites, the Amorites, and Gigarshites. I'm a child. They said shites, Lamau. The Hivites, the Arkites, and Sinites. I'm just guessing they're all ites. The Arvadites and Zemarites and the Hamathites. Afterward, the clans of the Canaanites dispersed. After what? After what? And the territory of the Canaanites extended from Sidon in the direction of Gergeraz as far as Gaza, and in the direction of Sodom, Gomorrah, Admah, and Zeboim as far as Lasha. These are the sons of Ham by their clans, their languages, their lands, and their nations. To Shem also, the father of all the children of Eber, the eldest brother of Japheth, children were born. The sons of Shem, Elham, Asher, Apakshad, Lud, and Aram. The sons of Aram, Uz, Hul, Gether, and Mash. Arpachshad fathered Shelah, and Shelah fathered Eber. To Eber were born two sons. The name of the one was Peleg, for in his days the earth was divided. In his days, and his brother's name was Joktan. Joktan fathered Almodad, Shelef, Azarmeveth, Jerha, Hadoram, Uzal, Dikla, Ubal, Adinel, Sheba, Ophir, Havilah, and Jobab. All these were the sons of Joktan. Good gracious. Many sons. The territory in which they lived extended from Mesha in the direction of Zephar to the hill country of the east. These are the sons of Shem by their clans, their names, their lands, and their nations. These are the clans of the sons of Noah according to their genealogies in their nations, and from these the nations spread abroad on the earth after the flood. Very interesting. Interesting. The sons of Ham, Cush, Egypt, which I believe Cush is south of Egypt, if I'm not mistaken. Egypt, everybody knows Egypt. I mean, if we're thinking that the son of Ham, Egypt, established the land of Egypt, and Canaan established the land of Canaan. It's like, you know, interesting. It seems, I mean, my guess would be that that is what is being implicated here. Let's see, how long did it take before Sons of Ham? That's legitimately, you have Noah, which supposedly I'm pretty sure what they land on Mount Ararat, which is supposedly in Turkey. Um, and then his grandson goes and establishes Egypt, Cush, Canaan, and I don't know where Put is, or where Put would be, if even Put even established anything. I mean, who knows? Um, this is very interesting because I don't know if any other text or culture corroborates this information. And just put like cross-reference. Yeah, because I would think that if there was other, look, sometimes you just have one lone document giving a historical account and no other accounts from other people. If there's no other like corroborating evidence, it's difficult to be like, oh yes, this right here is the definitive, like 100% stamp it with approval. We're believing this beyond what anything else says. It's very difficult for me to do personally. Um, Obviously it's you know, and I get it. I do recall understanding that there was a time period, maybe in like the mid 1800s to early 1900s, where there was like basically the scientific historical like non-religious community was criticizing the Bible heavily for certain place names and stuff like that that just like these are all made up. Everything in here is made up. And then what do you know? They found certain places and corroborated data and there is cross-referencing that did occur that it was like, okay, no, wait, there is legitimate proof. I don't think that like obviously with the Bible, it can be a little tricky because you have all these books written. Obviously, a lot of this is word of mouth at first before it gets written down. And then you have many different authors and many different books. And so the accuracy must be taken, in my opinion, on a case by case basis per book. And so this isn't some kind of like, oh, because I think this specific portion might not be very accurate. That's not a somehow a criticism on later texts, like later in the Bible as we go. Just want to kind of reiterate that. This is just a mild criticism on what we are reading here as far as the historical accuracy is concerned. Something, I've written down, I'm going to cross-reference with other information to see if there's any kind of corroboration on this. Such as even like, Egypt fathered, like these names right here. Again, you also gotta remember by the time that this was actually written down was most likely after um, the Israelites left Egypt. Most likely. I'll have to do a little research, but most likely it was written down after they had left Egypt. And so potentially they took some of the information of like Egypt, their information that they gathered while they were in Egypt, or maybe this just general knowledge of like maybe they did do some like who knows, man. like the people who told this story did actually like corroborate with the people in the region before the story got written down. Who knows? You know what I mean? Who knows? But definitely something for me to kind of look into. Again, grain of salt at the end of the day. Um, okay. I mean, I don't know. Doesn't seem to be too looking for any other like takeaways from this. Um, mm, we'll write down. Say that this is kind of interesting. This is a little, it's a little different from what else is going on in text. Anytime somebody is sort of, oh, this person right here, he was the first on earth to be a mighty man. I guess post-flood technically, because earlier they talked about mighty men. But anyway, first on the earth to be, I guess, a man of renown, where everybody in the area knew about Nimrod. You know. So we'll just jot that down. Just it's interesting. Put first mighty man after the flood. Yeah, I don't. Mm, hmm. When you have that, that's you know interesting. All right. Mm. Hmm. For some reason, I would have thought Canaan would have been the one to have been the ancestor of the Philistines, because I thought the Philistines settled in or around Canaan, but people move around. You know what I mean? Like clearly, it's an it. If it wasn't Canaan, well, where the Philistines were. Peeps move around and stuff like that. Queens and Canaanites dispersed. I guess after, no, after all of his sons were born. I don't know. Afterward, the clans of the Canaanites dispersed. After what? Hmm. All right, I think we should move on. All right. Here we go. Chapter 11. Now, the whole earth had one language and the same words. And as people migrated from the east, they found a plain in the land of Shinar and settled there. And they said to one another, come, let us make bricks and burn them thoroughly. And they had brick for stone, and bitumen of mortar. Then they said, come, let us build ourselves a city and a tower with its top in the heavens, and let us make a name for ourselves, lest we be dispersed over the face of the whole earth. And the Lord came down to see the city and the tower, which the children of man had built. And the Lord said, Behold, they are one people, they have all one language, and this is only the beginning of what they will do, and nothing that they propose to do will now be impossible for them. Interesting. Come, let us go down and there confuse their language, so that they may not understand one another's speech. Go on, let's mess with them. Let's just mess with them. So the Lord dispersed them from there over the face of all the earth, and they left off the building the city. They left off the building the city. Therefore its name was called Babel, because the Lord confused the language of all the earth. And from there the Lord dispersed them over the face of all the earth. Let's just take a moment. So again, during like chapters 1 through 8, I talked about like sort of different teaching mechanisms that, or things that you're like teaching your children, like you know, teaching them about marriage, teaching them about sin and murder, and why things are the way they are, essentially. You know what I mean? This feels like another moment like that. Like, why do we all speak different languages? You know, and this feels very much in that vein, very mythological, like very not historically accurate at all. Um, the idea that God would just be like, let's mess with their speech so they don't understand each other, because potentially, and nothing that they propose to do will now be impossible for them. Well, we can't have them doing the impossible. So if they don't understand each other, then we'll make it impossible. Like what? Again, when I read this, I don't see God doing or saying any of this. Yeah, it's just makes it, no. I don't know however you want to try to logic your way into this, it will always feel very strange and very out of place for how I understand God to operate, and we'll just leave it at that. Let's see. Get to the rest of it. This is just such an interesting little passage here. So we're gonna put, let's see. Explanation for why people speak different languages. I mean, that's really what this is. And then you have like, well, why did God do that? Well, he doesn't want them doing the impossible. Nothing that they, yeah. Hmm. Hmm. It's also interesting, the idea of building it to make a name for yourselves, which I think is a very actually like quite a reasonable reason to do something like that. Basically to kind of put yourself, your tribe, your nation, your group of people on the map. If you make something really impressive, then when visitors come, they will go around and speak about the marvel that they had seen to other people. And then that will kind of put you sort of on the map. So that checks out. That makes sense. Um, all right. Oh my goodness. Mm. Also, at certain points, again, throughout most of Genesis up until now, um, God does not seem to be or seem to be all knowing or even perfect. God seems to be a little mischievous, which kind of coincides with many other gods in other pantheons that developed during the ancient and classical period, from my understanding. Gods were kind of mischievous. They kind of like sort of did their own thing. They kind of were acted kind of like people, just with a lot of power. They were flawed and selfish and this, that, and the other. And so far up until this point, God hasn't done anything like evil or wrong or something like crazy. It's not like God is just like it's not like he sent a flood to murder everyone. Wait a minute. Um, well, they were being bad people. Um, you know, yeah, from so far, God just doesn't seem to be, first off, all knowing. So that sort of understanding of God definitely seems to come later. Um, because it's not really being displayed very well right now, or even in any way, there doesn't seem to be any real intention to show God as being all knowing at this point in time, or even any like concern um, for it. And they left off building the city. I take it that means like they gave up on building the city, dispersed them from there. Yeah, I get that's probably what it means. Called Babel because Lord confused. Okay. All right, let's see. Let's keep rolling. Um, I'll just make a little note here. Right. Oh, here we go. More names, more names. Let's do it. These are the generations of Shem. When Shem was 100 years old, he fathered Arpachshad 2 years after the flood. And Shem lived after he fathered Ar Arpachshad 500 years and had other sons and daughters. When Arpachshad had lived 35 years, he fathered Shelah. And Arpachshad lived after he fathered Shelah 403 years and had other sons and daughters. When Shelah had lived 30 years, he fathered Eber. And Shelah lived after he fathered Eber 403 years and had other sons and daughters. When Eber had lived 34 years, he fathered Peleg. And Eber lived after he fathered Peleg 430 years and had other sons and daughters. When Peleg had lived 30 years, he fathered Reu, or Reu, Reu. And Peleg lived after he fathered Reu 209 years and had other sons and daughters. When Reu had lived 32 years, he fathered Serug. And Reu lived after he fathered Serug 207 years and had other sons and daughters. When Serug had lived 30 years, he fathered Nahor. And Serug lived after he fathered Nahor 200 years and other sons and daughters. When Nahor had lived 29 years, he fathered Terah. And Nahor lived after he fathered Terah 119 years and had other sons and daughters. When Terah had lived 70 years, he fathered Abram, Nahor, and Haran. Well, there you have it. Abram, baby. Abram has hit the deck. Should be the Abram. Abram, right? Yep, with Sarah. Yeah, buddy, we got Abram on the field. All right. Abram is born. spoiler alert, he's kind of important. You'll see. He kind of gets his name changes. That's always a important moment. All right, spoilers. Okay. All right, Terra's descendants. Now, these are the generations of... where was that come from? Now, these are the generations of Terah. Terah fathered Abram, Nahor, and Haran. And Haran fathered Lot. Haran died in the presence of his father Terah in the land of his kindred, in Ur of the Chaldeans. And Abram and Nahor took wives, and the name of Abram's wife was Sarah. Sarai, maybe? And the name of Nahor's wife, Milcah, the daughter of Haran, the father of Milcah, and Iscah. Almost wanted to say Isaac. Iscah? Yeah. Now Sarai was barren. She had no children. Terah took Abram his son, and Lot the son of Haran, his grandson, and Sarai his daughter-in-law, his son Abram's wife, and they went forth together from Ur of the Chaldeans to go into the land of Canaan. But when they came to Haran, they settled there. Came to Haran. Oh, take it and Lot's son Haran. Wait a minute. Days of Terah were 200. Wait a minute. But when they came to Haran, they settled there. I feel like I'm missing something. Terah took his son and Lot the son of Haran. Okay, so Abram and Lot. I see. So they went, Abram and Lot. Yes, went and they came to Haran. They visited him. Well, wasn't just a visit. They settled there. Okay. All right. Okay. So basically, many years from Shem until we get to Abram. All right. Don't know what else to really, it's like, okay. All right. Any takeaways? I mean, this is kind of like what I think is the biggest takeaway here. Obviously, this is sort of just showing the lineage of Abram to Shem, which is, the son of Noah, which Noah is a descendant of Adam. So it's just showing that connection of Abram basically all the way back to the very first human being created. Like that seems to be sort of the takeaway. And also, showing Abram's lineage to Noah, the most righteous man of his day that God had chosen. It's, very sort of like, it's important. It's important. It kind of shows that there is a kind of like also Shem is hold on. Okay. Yeah, Shem's the Shem's the good boyo, right? Let's see here. Yeah. So Shem is the one that is known for being close to God compared to his two siblings, and potentially the oldest, but we don't know. We just know, as far as I can tell, we just know that Ham is the youngest. So Shem could be the middle child, he could be the oldest, we don't know. As far as this is concerned, unless I miss something. Again, it would make more sense if they put like, oldest, middle, youngest. That would make so much more sense. But no, they had to make it a little more ambiguous. Because the youngest, is, yeah, Ham. Mhm. All right. Okay, so let's just gonna put Abram descendant. So not only is a descendant of Noah, but he's also a descendant of Noah's most blessed child, Shem. All right. Also, in a certain, being a descendant of like, people who were close to God and blessed by God, it can give you sort of like, you know, I'm a descendant of people that were blessed by God, so their blessings, passed down. There can be that kind of potentially mindset or even like a justification on when why you deserve good things. When good things happen, it's like, well, of course, God, this is from God because I'm blessed because I'm from blessed people, you know. All right, let's keep on rolling. Potentially. I'm not saying that that's like 100% everybody's thinking like that. Potentially. All right, chapter 12. All right, let's see what time we got. Oh, it's about that time. Oh, get a little stretch. Oh. Okay. About time for a smoke break. Yeah. Said I was gonna get a vape yesterday. I did not. Well, hopefully by Monday. I don't see why I wouldn't have one by Monday, but time for a smoke break. All right, be right back. All right, chapter 12. Let's get on like King Kong to the break of dawn. All right. Now, the Lord said to Abram, go from your country and your kindred and your father's house to the land that I will show you. And I will make of you a great nation, and I will bless you and make your name great, so that you will be a blessing. I will bless those who bless you, and him who dishonors you I will curse. And in you all the families of the earth shall be blessed. Foreshadowing. So Abram went as the Lord had told him, and Lot went with him. Abram was 75 years old when he departed from Haran. And Abram took Sarai. I've always thought it was Sarah, but then they put the I at the end, and I'm like, wait, is it Sarai? Sarai? Sarai, I guess, or Sari? I don't know. Just pronounce it like I read. You know what I'm saying? When Abram took Sarai, his wife, excuse me, and Lot, his brother's son. Lot, his brother's son. Interesting. So his nephew? Yeah. And all their possessions that they had gathered, and the people that they had acquired in Haran. And they set out to go to the land of Canaan. When they came to the land of Canaan, Abram passed through the land to the place at Shechem, to the oak of Moreh. These little notations sometimes like break up the they break up my flow. Or terrapin. Interesting. To the oak of Moreh. At that time the Canaanites were in the land. Then the Lord appeared to Abram and said, to your offspring I will give this land. So he built there an altar to the Lord who had appeared to him. From there he moved to the hill country on the east of Bethel, and pitched his tent, with Bethel on the west and Ai on the Ai on the east. And there he built an altar to the Lord and called upon the name of the Lord. And Abram journeyed on, still going toward Negev. Now there was a famine in the land, so Abram went down to Egypt to sojourn there, for the famine was severe in the land. When he was about to enter Egypt, he said to Sarai his wife, I know that you are a woman beautiful in appearance, and when the Egyptians see you, they will say, this is his wife. Then they will kill me, but they will let you live. Say you are my sister, that it may go well with me because of you, and that my life may be spared for your sake. When Abram entered Egypt, the Egyptians saw that the woman was very beautiful. And when the princes of Pharaoh saw her, they praised her to Pharaoh. And the woman was taken into Pharaoh's house. And for her sake he dealt well with Abram. And he had sheep, oxen, male donkeys, male servants, female donkeys, and camels. But the Lord afflicted Pharaoh and his house with great plagues because of Sarai, Abram's wife. So Pharaoh called Abram and said, what is this you have done to me? Why did you not tell me she was your wife? Probably made some advances, let me tell you. Ooh. Why did you say she is my sister, so that I took her for my wife? Why did you say she is my sister, so that I took her for my wife? Now then, here is your wife. Take her and go. And Pharaoh gave men orders concerning him, and they sent him away with his wife and all that he had. Wait, was Abram allowed to keep did they take the sheep and the donkeys? Interesting. uh, oh dear. Oh dear. fascinating. All right, let's start from the top. Let's see what we can get from all this. All right, so this is, so basically, for those of you who don't know the Bible, maybe even at all, Abram, his name will become Abraham, and he is the father of Abrahamic religions, Judaism being the first and foremost. And so this right here, is will be used and will be, you will see that, land of Canaan, where, got today Israel, Gaza, and gosh, I feel bad for not remembering the other portion. It eludes me right now. Anyway, that region right there is known as Canaan. Back in the day, I don't know if anybody calls it Canaan today. Maybe they do. So anyway, we're getting a little ahead of ourselves, but basically this is the justification for the Jews, the Israelites, however, that land is, God has given them that land to settle, despite who else is living there at the time. So let's see. So this is an important passage. All right. Again, it's one of those things where this is, did Abram exist? We're gonna go with probably. I would say probably. We're at the point in Genesis where we're now leaning more towards, rather than probably not, we're leaning towards probably. Does that mean all of this occurred the way the text says it did? Not sure. Not sure. But we're at that point where we're leaning towards probably Abram existed, and probably some of this is factually, as far as like there being a famine and him going to Egypt, the more broader details, the more broad details, as far as, his wife's name and them going to Egypt. Whether this all happened, who knows? And also, did this occur? Maybe. It's we're at that point where it's like I wasn't there personally. I can't give a witness testimony on the fact. But the fact of the matter is, many people will use this as a justification or pretext in the future. That this text right here is cited many times by the descendants of Abram/Abraham for their claim to the land of Canaan. So this is regardless of how accurate this is, it is very important. And this is very amusing because, Abram, if there was ever a time to consult God, you know what I mean? You like probably would have been a good time because kind of was a little bit of a sleaze here. Bit of a punk, and sort of punked the Pharaoh into thinking he could take his sister to be his wife. And that didn't go well for them. All right, he gets sent away because of it. And all that he had, again, I wondered, was he allowed to keep the sheepdogs and the male servants? Like that's quite a bit to be given for that, because that almost looks like a dowry in a way. You know what I mean? So, oh shoot. All right, let's keep rolling. See if there's anything else to make note of here. Mm. 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 All right. All right, let's keep rolling. Chapter 13. All right, so Abram went up from Egypt, he and his wife and all that he had, and Lot with him, into Negev. Now, Abram was very rich in livestock, in silver, and in gold. Okay, did he sounds like he might have kept all this. Sounds like he might have kept all this stuff right here, and maybe sold some of it. Very rich in livestock. Now that he has more sheep, oxen, male and female donkeys, male and female servants, and camels. Like sounds like he it kind of worked out for him. That little ruse that he did, kind of might have like a made off quite well. Now Abram was very rich in livestock and silver and in gold, and he journeyed on from the Negeb as far as Bethel to the place where his tent had been at the beginning, between Bethel and Ai, to the place where he had made an altar at the first. And there Abram called upon the name of the Lord, and Lot, who went with Abram, also had flocks and herds and tents, so that the land could not support both of them dwelling together. Interesting. For their possessions were so great that they could not dwell together. And there was strife between the herdsmen of Abram's livestock and the herdsmen of Lot's livestock. At that time, the Canaanites and Perizzites were dwelling in the land. Then Abram said to Lot, let there be no strife between you and me, and between your herdsmen and my herdsmen, for we are kinsmen. Is not the whole land before you? Separate yourself from me. If you take the left hand, then I will go to the right, or if you take the right hand, then I will go to the left. And Lot lifted up his eyes and saw that the Jordan Valley was well watered everywhere like the garden of the Lord, like the land of Egypt, in the direction of Zoar. This was before the Lord destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah. So Lot chose for himself all the Jordan Valley, and Lot journeyed east. Thus they separated from each other. Abram settled in the land of Canaan, while Lot settled among the cities of the valley and moved his tent as far as Sodom. Now the men of Sodom were wicked, great sinners against the Lord. The Lord said to Abram, after Lot had separated from him, "Lift up your eyes and look to the place where you are, northward and southward and eastward and westward. For all the land that you see, I will give to you and to your offspring forever. I will make your offspring as the dust of the earth, so that if one can count the dust of the earth, your offspring can be counted. Arise, walk through the length and the breadth of the land, for I will give it to you." So Abram moved his tent and came and settled by the oaks of Mamre, which are at Hebron, and there he built an altar to the Lord. I want to take a moment. Hold on, I missed something I swear, didn't I miss something last chapter? Hold on. Ah, yes. So this portion right here, right there, that is clutch. I missed that the first time. Well, I made a mental note. But that actually is quite significant. I'm going to jot that down. Because regardless of historical accuracy, that turns out to be extremely true. Yeah. Like, that turns out to be very, very, very accurate in the future, at least. So, when that happens, it's like high potential that this is actually, this at least, has great potential for accuracy, in my opinion. Hindsight 2020. You know what I mean? And hey, considering the last 2, 3 thousand years, it's a bit of it's been a mixed bag for those descendants of Abram. Quite the mixed bag. Um, However, they talk about a people with a lot of renown, quite a bit of renown. Let's see. All right. And for me, when I read this right here, I think Jesus. Jesus. All right. All right, now we can let's go back to chapter 13. Okay. All right. Yeah, it seems like he kept the livestock that he had gotten. And maybe like him and Lot, like they kind of maybe gave a good portion of it to Lot. Maybe they split it, who knows? Um, because they both have a lot of livestock now. And on the land that they initially settled, it was like there's just not enough here for the both of us. And at this point, it's like, I mean, he settled the land of Canaan at this point. Like, he is in the land that God had promised him, you know. And then Lot settled among the cities, and the valley moved his tent as far as Sodom. So, Hmm. Okay. Kind of reiterating what, like, all right, you're in Canaan now. All right, look all around you. Like that is what you shall receive. This is what God is going to give Abram, you know, according to the Holy Bible. Um, hmm, okay. I don't see any other like really key details sticking out too much. Right? Any real like big takeaways here? As much as like, all right, Abram settles, he's in Canaan, he's settled the land. And, God's kind of like, all right, now look everywhere, all this is yours. Which feels like maybe Canaan wasn't considered as big as before. I don't know. I don't know. Or it's just seems like just a reiteration, you know. All right. All right, let's keep rolling. All right, chapter 14. All right. In the days of Amraphel, king of Shinar, Arioch, king of Elasar, Chedorlaomer, king of Elam, and Tidal, king of Goyim. These kings made war with Bera, king of Sodom, Bersha, king of Gomorrah, Shinab, king of Admah, Shemeber, king of Zeboim, and the king of Bela, that is Zorah. And all these joined forces in the valley of Siddim, that is the Salt Sea. 12 years they served Chedorlaomer, but in the 13th year they rebelled. In the 14th year, Chedorlaomer and the kings who were with him came and defeated the Rephaim in Ashtaroth Karnaim, the Zuzim in Ham, and Emim in Shava Kirathaim, and the Horites in their hill country of Seir as far as El Paran on the border of the wilderness. Then they turned back and came to En-Mishpat, that is Kadesh, and defeated all the country of the Amalekites, and also the Amorites who were dwelling in Hazal Hazotamar. Then the king of Sodom, the king of Gomorrah, the king of Admah, and the king of Zeboim, and the king of Bela, that is Zoar, went out and they joined battle in the valley of Siddim with Chedorlaomer, king of Elam, title king of Goim, Aphral, king of Shinar, and Arioch, king of Elazar, 4 kings against 5. Now the valley of Siddim was full of pits, bitumen pits, and as the kings of Sodom and Gomorrah fled, some fell into them, and the rest fled to the hill country. So the enemy took all the possessions of Sodom and Gomorrah, and all their provisions, and went their way. They also took Lot, the son of Abram's brother, who was dwelling in Sodom, and his possessions, and went their way. Then one who had escaped came and told Abram the Hebrew. First mention of Hebrew. Interesting. Of Hebrew. Okay. Hebrew. Interesting. Who was living by the oaks of Mamre, the Amorite, brother of Eshcol and of Aner. These were allies of Abram. I made some allies. It's good to have allies. When Abram heard that his kinsmen had been taken captive, he led forth his trained men, born in his house, 318 of them, and went in pursuit as far as Dan. And he divided his forces against them by night, he and his servants, and defeated them and pursued them to Hobah, north of Damascus. Then he brought back all the possessions, also brought back his kinsman Lot with his possessions, and the women and the people. After his return from the defeat of Chedorlaomer and the kings who were with him, the king of Sodom went out to meet him at the valley of Sheba, that is the king's valley, and Melchizedek, king of Salem, brought out bread and wine. He was priest of God Most High. Wait, priest of God Most High. Interesting. Let's keep going. And he blessed him and said, Blessed be Abram by God Most High, possessor of heaven and earth, and blessed be God Most High, who has delivered your enemies into your hands. And Abram gave him 1/10 of everything. And the king of Sodom said to Abram, Give me the persons, but take the goods for yourselves. All right. But Abram said to the king of Sodom, I have lifted my hand to the Lord, God Most High, possessor of heaven and earth, that I would not take a thread or a sandal's strap or anything that is yours, lest you should say, I have made Abram rich. I will take nothing but what the young men have eaten, and the share of the men who went with me. Let Aner, Eshcol, and Memre take their share. Interesting. Okay. All right. Well, first war slash battles in the Old Testament. In Genesis. Okay. Interesting, interesting. Leading from the front. Good man, good man. All right. Sounds like you might have pulled a little flankaroo on him. Divided his force against them by night. Either he attacked at night, or during the day it looked like they were all together. Then at night he separated them out so that they still thought they were facing the main force, while another force that he had divided off maybe came at him from a different angle. So, so this is interesting. He was priest of God Most High, which kind of gives either an impression that either they also too worship the same, the same God that Abram worships. Like they're worshiping the same God. It's also I think this is the first instance of a priest being mentioned as well. It's interesting. Um, hmm. Blessed be Abraham by God Most High. Blessed be God Most High. Mhm. So it's an interesting move right there. I kind of like I don't want to feel in any way like Abram's like, no, 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 I don't want you to go around saying that you're the one that made me rich. I made me rich. That's interesting. But he allowed his allies to have their share. It's like you guys take your share. But and what's interesting is like Abram gives him he, Abram gave him a tenth of everything. Oh, maybe a tenth of the spoils, right? Or a tenth of the spoils that like Abram had his own spoils that he had collected, and he gave him a tenth. I see, I see. I think that's what's being said here. Yeah, this is very, very interesting to me because priests generally, like generally that's more of that is kind of like a formal position, you know. which often involves there generally being a temple, you know? Another possibility could be a priest back then could be understood more as somebody who is like a maybe Abram was considered also a priest just due to the fact that he communicates with God and on a regular basis or a somewhat regular basis. And maybe that is something that would make somebody, oh, you're a priest because you communicate with God. Um, then again, fortunately, it's depending on the time frame, there would be temples. But it is interesting that like a king of Salem, um, that kind of shows other groups of people were worshiping um the same God Abram was, which makes sense. I mean, it's not crazy in any way, shape, or form. It's just interesting because as far as my understanding of history, of just the general, like, 1000 BC or, 1500, there's just not enough evidence to actually, one way or the other, I kind of have to go with their word on this. That like, I mean, it makes sense. I mean, it's not like I can't believe there's other people worshiping God that wasn't Abram at this time. How that's wild. But it is kind of interesting at the same time because it's not something that's generally mentioned. Which, this is kind of like I don't know. I don't know when you would mention this if you're just in the church or teaching people about Christianity. So I get it. But it's fascinating. Abram by God Most High. And it's, we have kind of a new sort of like, it's a God Most High. You know what I mean? It's a nice title. Let's see. Okay. Also, we have the first mention of Hebrew, which I find interesting that like, I would have thought that maybe like Abraham the Hebrew, like, did Abraham give that title to himself, or was that like a title that other people gave him due to other factors? I wonder where that word, sure, I could look it up. It's curious that this is sort of like, I thought that word would come later, I'll put it that way. And then again, this is Genesis. This book probably wasn't written down for quite some time, so maybe by the time it was written down, there already knows Hebrew, so you gotta think about like people writing this afterwards, and they was probably interjected into the text as like, well, this now at this point, the Hebrew. It's just interesting that it wouldn't be put into the earlier text like Abraham the Hebrew, but there's time and place for everything. Just because it's not mentioned earlier doesn't mean it wasn't like understood earlier. You know, any musicals. Hmm. The other takeaways. Mm, mm, Hmm. All right, let's keep rolling. Yeah, one other thing to just remember. This text was written and no intention at all for modern audiences. None of this was like, when you're telling this story, you got to think about the first time the story was told, and the second time, the third time, the fourth time, the fifth time. And by the time it was written down, like, this is for the people at the time, the people living in the right then and there, I guess their version of the modern audience, so I guess who would have been modern at the time this was being told, you know, to a certain extent. So that's where sometimes some things that are like written down and sort of codified in this way, some details might be left out because there's a certain like they'll know what we mean by this. Such as the story that, when we um like in chapter 11 with the whole idea of like um was it chapter 11? Shoot. Great. Yeah, so like chapter 9 where Noah's like blessing and cursing his sons for a perceived slight, that maybe would have to us seems a little kind of like eyebrow raising, but the fact that it wasn't like explained why it was a slight, you know, probably didn't feel like there wasn't a need to explain that because the people at the time when this was first written down would have just understood why it was a slight. Probably. Not definitely, but probably. All right. I think we're good to keep rolling here. All right, chapter 15. All right. After these things, the word of the Lord came to Abram in a vision. Fear not, Abram. I am your shield. Your reward shall be very great. But Abram said, O Lord God, what will you give me? For I continue childless, and the heir of my house is Eliezer of Damascus. And Abram said, Behold, you have given me no offspring, and a member of my household will be my heir. And behold, the word of the Lord came to him, This shall not be your heir. Your very own son shall be your heir. And he brought him outside and said, Look toward heaven and number the stars, if you are able to number them. Then he said to him, So shall your offspring be, countless. And he believed the Lord, and he counted it to him as righteousness. And he said to him, I am the Lord. And he said to him, and God said, wait, well, interesting. We're losing who's saying what here. And he believed the Lord. Okay. And God said to him, and he said to him, would have preferred a capital H to designate when he, as in the Lord, would be nice, would be helpful. All right. And he said to him, I am the Lord who brought you out from Ur of the Chaldeans to give you this land to possess. They said, O Lord God, how am I to know that I shall possess it? Isn't he already in Canaan right now? I mean, doesn't he kind of already have at least a stake in the land? It's like, I mean, I guess it'd be like me living in a city and God told me that city shall be mine. I'm just like, I just own like a small plot of land here. How do I know I'm gonna own the city? Like, okay, I can kind of see like he just owns like a plot of land, but like there's a bunch of people here, and God's like, you're gonna possess all of it. And he's like, how? How am I to know that I'm gonna own all this? He said to him, bring me a heifer 3 years old, a female goat 3 years old, a ram 3 years old, a turtle dove, and a young pigeon. And he brought to him all these, cut them in half, and laid each half over against the other. But he did not cut the birds in half. And when birds of prey came down on the carcasses, Abram drove them away. Interesting detail. As the sun was going down, a deep sleep fell on Abram, and behold, dreadful and great darkness fell upon him. Then the Lord said to Abram, know for certain that your offspring will be sojourners in a land that is not theirs, and will be servants there, and they will be afflicted for 400 years. Gosh darn it, man. It's brutal. But I will bring judgment on the nation that they serve, and afterward they shall come out with great possessions. As for you, you shall go to your fathers in peace. You shall be buried in a good old age. And they shall come back here in the fourth generation, for the iniquity of the Amorites is not yet complete. When the sun had gone down and it was dark, behold, a smoking fire pot and a flaming torch passed between these pieces. Hey, what? Hold. A smoking fire pot and a flaming torch passed between these pieces. What pieces? Passed between the animals that have cut in half and laid on. Is it laid on altar? Um, I'm guessing they're laid on altar. That makes the most sense. Let's keep reading. On that day, the Lord made a covenant with Abram, saying, to your offspring I give this land, from the river of Egypt to the great river, the river Euphrates, the land of the Kenites, the Kenizzites, and Cadmonites, the Hittites, the Perizzites, and Rephaim, the Amorites, the Canaanites, the Girgashites, and the Jebusites. That's a lot. That's quite a lot of land. That's a lot more than just Canaan. This promise keeps getting broader and broader and broader. It's like first Canaan. Now it's like, all right, look every direction. That is all yours that you can see. Okay, we're widening this, right? And now it's like, all right, from the river of Egypt to the river of Euphrates. I feel like I need to pull up like a map just to be like, that's okay. This uh getting a little bigger and bigger and bigger. We're at a point where that would be a sizable country by today's standards. Let me tell you. Interesting. Hmm. All right. Certain that your offspring will be sojourners 400 foothold. right, so this is going to be their time in Egypt, I'm guessing. Reigning in the fourth month for the iniquity. This is not yet complete. So I got a smoking fire pot and a flaming torch passed between these pieces. I wonder if that's going to be mentioned in the next chapter because it's kind of sort of like brought up here, and then we go into this whole snazzy jazz. And hold on, is there any? So like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I wonder if that's as anything. Like 3 years old, 3 years old, 3 years old. Third level being a pigeon. Hold on. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. If we cut them in half. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Just seeing if like maybe like the portions are portioned out for these groups of people. You know what I mean? Just I mean, if you eat all 5 of them in half, that would 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Maybe there is some kind of connection here. Just because you cut them in half doesn't mean they don't. Not. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. Hmm. 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 Yeah, it's hard to say if like this is correlating to this in any way. It might be in some way, shape, or form. Um, hmm. And let's see. Hmm. Let's see. Interesting the um, sort of like you're gonna have a lot of offspring. You're gonna have a lot of offspring. You're gonna have a lot of offspring. It's like it's an interesting sort of again reiteration. And it's like you're gonna have your babies are gonna have babies, gonna have babies, gonna have babies. Many, 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 many. And so it has been. They have indeed had many babies. Many groups of people have many babies. Especially since then. Let me tell you. Hmm. Um, What's also interesting is that 400 years, I wonder, if anybody back then, like 400 years, like, you serious, bro? Nowadays, it's like, you tell somebody, some, like, you, your people, your descendants are going to be afflicted for 400 years, you'd be like, holy freaking, are you serious, bro? 400 years. Do you know how much can happen in 400 years? Back then, might still be in the Bronze Age after 400 years. Uh, Technology didn't move that quickly back then. Let's see. Hmm. Good thing is that, you know, bring judgment on the nation that they serve, and afterward shall come out with great possessions. All right, all right. Yeah, not sure anything else going on here. Again, it does kind of crack me up how it's like it's first Canaan, now it's like you see everything, that's all yours, and now it's from the river of Egypt all the way to the river Euphrates. Like it's, it's amusing how over time it just keeps getting bigger, bigger, bigger. Makes me wonder if it's legit. Makes me wonder if this is legit from God. That's kind of what I'm saying. Um, again, hard to know. Hard to know. Hmm. All right. I think right now is a good time for a smoke break, and then we will pick up on chapter 16. Yeah. It also is interesting that like before God provided a male heir for Abram, he's like, look, you're gonna have so many offspring. So many. I mean, maybe he's talking about the daughters that he. Oh, wait, no. His wife is childless, not just sonless. He has no offspring. I would be a little kind of like if God was telling me this at like the age of like whatever 80 or whatever, because I think Abram's old at this point. I would feel a little like annoyed, irritated. Like, bruh, why do you keep bringing up how many offspring I'm gonna have? I have zero right now. Zero. I can't, don't even have one, and gonna die soon. And you're telling me I'm gonna have all these kids. Like, where's my own child? This is very, very interesting. I mean, my goodness. Hmm. Just a little note there. I see. Abram's like, I have no offspring, no heir. Maybe he's like, okay, but okay, maybe he's talking about like a member of my household or something like that, or like he's talking about like my you know my my cousins, my brothers are gonna be the ones that are gonna have the like maybe he's thinking a little broadening the idea of what his offspring are. Maybe it's not really like mentioned in this that that's what's taking place. I don't know. All right. Fear not, Abram. I am your shield. The Lord shall be very great. It's like if anybody criticizes you, just say like, well, God told me X, Y, and Z. Not saying that's what's going on. It can be a little like, I'm your shield. God told me this is my land. God said it, therefore I foretold. All right, let's take a little break here, and then we'll start up on chapter 16. All right. We're at moving on to chapter 16. All right. Now Sarai, Abram's wife, had borne him no children. She had a female Egyptian servant whose name was Hagar. And Sarai said to Abram, Behold now, the Lord has prevented me from bearing children. Go into my servant. It may be that I shall obtain children by her. And Abram listened to the voice of Sarai. So after Abram had lived 10 years in the land of Canaan, Sarai, Abram's wife, took Hagar the Egyptian, her servant, and gave her to Abram, her husband, as a wife. And he went into Hagar, and she conceived. And when she saw that she had conceived, she looked with contempt on her mistress. It's the term. Oh, hold on. And he went into, and she conceived. And when she saw, she's in Sarah, she saw that, or when Hagar saw that she conceived, she looked with, and Sarai said to Abram, May the wrong done to me be on you. I gave my servant to your embrace, and when she saw that she had conceived, she looked on me with contempt. Oh, may the Lord judge between you and me. Oh, goodness. But Abram said to Sarai, Behold, your servant is in your power. Do to her as you please. Then Sarai dealt harshly with her, and she fled from her. The angel of the Lord found her by a spring of water in the wilderness, the spring on the way to Shur. And he said to Hagar, Servant of Sarai, where have you come from, and where are you going? She said, I am fleeing from my mistress Sarai. And the angel of the Lord said to her, Return to your mistress and submit to her. The angel of the Lord also said to her, I will surely multiply your offspring so that they cannot be numbered for multitude. And the angel of the Lord said to her, Behold, you are pregnant, and shall bear a son. You shall call his name Ishmael, because the Lord has listened to your affliction. He shall be a wild donkey of a man, his hand against everyone, and everyone's hand against him, and he shall dwell over against all his kinsmen. So she called the name of the Lord who spoke to her, You are a God of seeing. For she said, Truly here I have seen him who looks after me. Therefore the well was called Ber Lahairoi. It lies between Kadesh and Bered. And Hagar bore Abram a son, and Abram called the name of his son, whom Hagar bore, Ishmael. Abram was 86 old when Hagar bore Ishmael to Abram. When does his name become Abraham? Or is Abraham a different person? Am I crazy? I feel like I'm crazy. I'm going crazy. All right, so interesting. A cat fight. Angel of the Lord. I wonder, because angel also kind of means messenger. I wonder if that could have been an actual person, not just like angel as in like, a spiritual being, but someone who spoke to God, you know, and who could relay messages from God. Probably not by the standards of the Bible. I would take it they would use a different term than angel, more than likely. However, is this the first time? No, no. Oh, this can't be the first time. This is the first time I think an angel is actually relaying a message in the Bible. So I think. I'll have to double check. 'Ishmael shall be a wild donkey of a man. His hand against everyone and everyone's hand against him. He's going to be a troublesome child. Troublesome man. You are God of seeing. Truly here I have seen him who looks after me. Okay. It was 86. Okay. I think we're good to keep rolling. All right, let's keep rolling. All right, chapter 17. All right. When Abram was 99 years old, the Lord appeared to Abram and said to him, I am God Almighty. Walk before me and be blameless, that I may make my covenant between me and you and may multiply you greatly. Didn't they already have a covenant? I mean, hasn't the whole multiply you greatly been already like established? Yeah, established previously? This kind of reads like almost like, I mean, Abram's been communicating with God for quite some time, and it's almost like, I am God Almighty. It's like, well, yeah, we've spoken before. It's almost like my friend comes to me and like, I am so and so, and I'm like, yeah, I know. Who, what? Come again? Uh, Walk before me and be blameless, that I may make my covenant between me and you, and may multiply you greatly. Like he's already like such a strange kind of like, again, certain chapters almost feel like certain information gets reiterated almost like it hasn't been told before. Like this is the first time. Which kind of coincides with, I know I've um heard some people's impressions where they're like, sometimes it feels like, especially with like the early books like Genesis and what have you, where it's like they have several different instances or tellings of the same like happening, but it's in a different kind of context or a different time period of when it took place. And so they kind of just sort of throw them in here and there, because they're like, well, we don't know which one's like the correct one or the most important, or like which one actually like took place, so they just kind of like Well, he was 99, so clearly this one happened later. But it does almost feel like they're. This is very interesting. As it does read like this is like Abram hasn't been interacting with God beforehand. It kind of just reads like that. I'm not saying that is the case, only, but this is like, oh, this somehow proves or disproves anything. Only that's how it reads. All right, then Abraham fell on his face and said, and God said to him, "Behold, my covenant is with you." Just going right now. All right. Would have written this down. So this most likely, unless I missed it, the first time that it's being explicitly stated that God and Abram are have and are making a covenant. Okay. Wait till he was 99 years old. Good gracious. Behold, my covenant is with you, and you shall be the father of a multitude of nations. Again, kind of reiterating some stuff from previous, you know. No longer shall your name be called Abram, but your name shall be Abraham. Ah, there we go. The name change. Abraham, the Hebrew. And let's see. And, let's keep rolling. Scratch my own. All right. I will make you exceedingly fruitful, and I will make you into nations, and kings shall come from you. And I foretold, and I will establish my covenant between me and you and your offspring after you throughout their generations for an everlasting covenant, to be God, to you and to your offspring after you. And I will give to you and to your offspring after you the land of your sojournings, all the land of Canaan for an everlasting possession, and I will be their God. Again, it's like reiterating. Who knows? Maybe Abram had like been a while since they had spoken, and then suddenly, boom, and he's like, "Oh God, this is God." You know, I hadn't heard from you in a long time, and reiterating things, and maybe something just like reminding him of what has been stated before. And God said to Abram, "As for you, you shall keep my covenant, you and your offspring after you throughout their generations. This is my covenant which you shall keep between me and you and your offspring after you. Every male among you shall be circumcised. You shall be circumcised in the flesh of your foreskins, and it shall be a sign of the covenant between me and you." All right. Now, covenant. My covenant with you. Circumcision. All right. Shall be circumcised. He who is 8 days old among you shall be circumcised, every male throughout your generations, whether born in your house, or bought with your money from any foreigner who is not of your offspring. Both he who is born in your house and he who is bought with your money shall surely be circumcised. So shall my covenant be in your flesh, an everlasting covenant. Any uncircumcised male who is not circumcised in the flesh of his foreskin shall be cut off from his people. He has broken my covenant. Ay, ay, ay. No more foreskin. Mutilation. I keyed. Very fascinating. All right, let's keep rolling. And God said to Abraham, As as for Sarai your wife, you shall not call her name Sarai. Ah, Sarah, here we go. But Sarah shall be her name. Okay, this is interesting. Wait, all this time, I will bless her, and moreover, I will give you a son by her. I will bless her, and she shall become nations. Kings of peoples shall come from her. Then Abraham fell on his face and laughed. You know, natural reaction here, natural reaction, and said to himself, Shall a child be born to a man who is 100 years old? Shall Sarah, who is 90 years old, bear a child? And Abram said to God, Oh, that Ishmael might live before you. Like, why can't, like, Ishmael can live before you? Like, he might be the one. God said, No, but Sarah, your wife, shall bear you a son, and you shall call his name Isaac. I will establish my covenant with him as an everlasting covenant for his offspring after him. As for Ishmael, I have heard you. Behold, I have blessed him and will make him fruitful and multiply him greatly. He shall father 12 princes, and I will make him into a great nation. But I will establish my covenant with Isaac, whom Sarah shall bear to you at this time next year. When he had finished talking to him, God went up from Abraham. Then Abraham took Ishmael his son, and all those born in his house, and or bought with his money, every male among the men of Abraham's house, and he circumcised the flesh of their foreskins that very day, as God had said to him. Abraham was 99 years old when he was circumcised in the flesh of his foreskin. Yeah, I wonder what his kids must have thought, dude. And all these people like, he's lost his bloody mind. He's old and senile. He's just, my gosh. And Ishmael, his son, was 13 years old when he was circumcised in the flesh of his foreskin. That very day, Abraham and his son Ishmael were circumcised, and all the men of his house, those born in the house bought with money from a foreigner, were circumcised with him. Okay. Oh, good gracious. All right. So, yeah, he old. He very old. It's kind of interesting. So you got the name changed to Abraham. Even Sarai got her name changed to Sarah. And you got Ishmael with his 12 princes, make him into a great nation. Okay. Hmm. Seems like miracle children seem to be miracle births. Seem to be a bit of a theme in the Bible, as we will see. At least I think 3 instances hard to call three a theme with only three, but you know, three's not inconsequential by no means. Let's see. So yeah, the covenant at 99, and also um, reiterating all the land of Canaan. Once again, this is like the fourth time that it's mentioned, not just like it's like Canaan. He's at Canaan, and God's like everything that you can see, and then it's like from the River Nile to the Euphrates, and now once again land of Canaan. So like four times, and this might be like the third or fourth time about a great multitude for his offspring, multitude of nations. Hmm. Okay, all right. I think good on this front. I like that Abraham was like about my son Ishmael. What's he getting? All right, tally ho. And the Lord appeared to him by the oaks of Mamre, as he sat at the door of his tent in the heat of the day. He lifted up his eyes and looked, and behold, three men were standing in front of him. When he saw them, he ran from the tent door to meet them, and bowed himself to the earth, and said, O Lord, if I have found favor in your sight, do not pass by your servant. Let a little water be brought, and wash your feet, and rest yourselves under the tree, while I bring a morsel of bread, that you may refresh yourselves, and after that you may pass on, since you have come to your servant. So they said, Do as you have said. And Abraham went quickly into the tent to Sarah and said, Quick, what is this? Oh wow. It has 7.7 quarts. Oh my goodness. 3 seahs of fine flour, knead it and make cakes. It's a lot. Holy shnikes. Seems like a lot of cakes. And Abraham ran to the herd. Just see him just running. Ran to the herd and took a calf, tender and good, and gave it to a young man who prepared it quickly. Then he took curds and milk and the calf that he had prepared, and set it before them. And he stood by them under the tree while they ate. They said to him, Where is Sarah your wife? And he said, She is in the tent. The Lord said, I will surely return to you about this time next year, and Sarah your wife shall have a son. And Sarah was listening at the door behind him. Wait, Lord appeared in the flesh. Is that what this is pretty much saying? Three men were standing in front of him. This his eyes and look, and behold, three men. Was it like the Lord and two other men? Hmm. Trinity much? Let's see. The Lord appeared in the flesh. Interesting. I think it's like, huh. It was I don't recall being, seems like a very important moment, like God's appearing in the flesh to Abraham. This feels like I feel like Gandalf. I have no memory of this place. I feel like I should. Seems like an important moment. Significant. Huh. Where do we leave off? Let's keep rolling here. Good gracious. Intent, I will surely return to you about this time, and Sarah your wife shall have a son. Now Abraham and Sarah were old, advanced in years. Again, reiterating information. Almost like a different, like this. The Lord appeared to Abraham. You know, his birth promise. Like, doesn't this also say, like, yeah, but I was covered with Isaac, whom Sarah shall bear to you at this time next year. And then we also have, surely return to you about this time next year, and Sarah your wife shall have a son. I mean, this could be like a couple months later or something like that. I don't know. You know, like Sarah was listening at now Abraham and Sarah were all advanced in the years. The way of women had ceased to be with Sarah. So Sarah laughed to herself. Natural reaction. After I'm worn out, my Lord is old. Shall I have pleasure? Sorry, that reads so. Oh no. This is the Lord said, why did Sarah laugh and say, shall I indeed bear a child now that I'm old? Lord said to Abraham, why is Sarah this is very strange. Is anything too hard for the Lord? Is anything too hard? Well, let's hope it gets. Oh, something needs to get hard in this situation. Maybe not right this moment, but later on. For the Lord, at the appointed time I'll return to you, about this time next year, and Sarah shall have a son. But Sarah denied it, saying, I did not laugh, for she was afraid. He said, no, but you did laugh. I heard you. I heard you. Don't you deny it. Then the men set out from there, and they looked down towards Sodom, and Abraham went with them to set them on their way. The Lord said, shall I hide from Abraham what I am to do? Is he talking to Abraham? Okay, seeing that Abraham shall surely become a great and mighty nation, and all the nations of the earth shall be blessed in him. Wait, shall I hide this? For I have chosen him that he may command his children and his household after him to keep the way of the Lord by doing righteousness and justice, so that the Lord may bring to Abraham what he has promised him. Foreskins. Wait, no. So that the Lord may bring to Abraham what he has promised. Oh, it's interesting. It's almost like speaking in the third person here. Lord, so that the Lord may bring to Abraham what he has promised him. The Lord said, because the outcry against Sodom and Gomorrah is great, and their sin is very grave, I will go down to see whether they have done altogether according to the outcry that has come to me. If not, I will know. So this is just very strange. This is just very odd to me, just because before we continue, I just need to let's just go through 1 through 21. Um, okay. Uh, God appears in the flesh with two other men by his side. Very okay. This is like God just walking around, having conversations. Let's go see what's going on at Sodom and Gomorrah. Do 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 do. I don't know. It's mainly very amusing because it's just not something that say this feels like a departure from everything else that's happened up until this point. Um, unless it makes me question then, it does make me question like the Lord appeared. Not like in a vision, because when I read this, the Lord appeared, I'm picturing like a vision or like, you know, like not necessarily in the flesh, like maybe some kind of like more spiritual style apparition. You know what I mean? Or like in a dream. Like when I read this, I'm like, okay, this could have happened like a dream or a vision. You know what I mean? Something sort of akin to that. And then it's sort of like here, it's like, wait, am I supposed to be reading? Every other time it says the Lord appeared that he is actually like in the flesh. You know what I mean? Now this is because up until this point, you know, like that's how the Lord came. See, here we go. All right, that designates right there. Lord came to Abraham in a vision. Okay. All right, so that like designates that, but whenever I read the Lord appeared, I wonder if that's actually meant that me as the reader is supposed to just if it's just appeared that God is in the flesh right then and there. Said to Abram after. Like the Lord said to Abram, like I'm guessing that's like, you're hearing from the Lord. This is just an auditory sort of experience that is taking place. That's how I read this. That somebody is having either auditory or some kind of like, when you get into sort of like the spirituality of these things, you know what I mean? Unless we're supposed to be like, oh yeah, the Lord was just kind of standing right there, like lift up your eyes, and he's just there in the flesh, like looking like a human. Now the Lord said, so this is sort of like maybe the Lord said, therefore it is meant to be something that is more. Then here we have the Lord appeared to Abram, appeared. Like, so it's just sort of, curious. Hmm. Okay, now we're all the way back here. All right, hmm. I'm just gonna write this down. The one thing that like definitely helps differentiate things is that it is at least understood that God visits people in visions. So it's not like every time it's like the Lord appeared, the Lord appeared, the Lord appeared, and then at a certain point we're like, is this just like a dude that's like, I don't know. Yeah. Just Abram being taken for a fool by somebody claiming to be the Lord. You know? See, the Lord came to him. It's more of like, you hear something from God. Yeah, so this is, yeah, so it was the Lord appeared to Abraham. Well, this is before he's Abraham. So yeah, so is this and this talking about this different instances or are these like similar tellings of the same instance? That's where this is kind of funky. And that's where, especially with Genesis, it's hard to know. Hard to know for sure. Um, and the amount of times certain things are like reiterated, um, makes it just feel kind of a little jumbled, a little goofy. Um, but yeah, this is very interesting. Because this in this moment it is very clear that God is appearing in the flesh. He's eating, he's drinking, he's just having a little back and forth with Sarah. And Sarah's like, I didn't laugh. No, but you did laugh. I know you did. And then this passage is just so odd. Like, shall I hide from Abraham what I am to do, seeing that Abraham shall surely become a great and mighty nation, and all the nations of the earth shall be blessed in him. But we already established God saying this to Abram. Is Abraham going senile? He's forgotten, so it's like maybe we should hide it from him. He's forgotten all about it. I don't know. It's very strange. He may command his children. And then it's like, well, let's God's just strolling around the earth, just strolling. Just like, all right, we visited Abraham. Time to head over and see what's going on with Sodom and Gomorrah, Oh goodness. All right, let's keep rolling here. Um, I find this very funny. This is, I don't know, we're just gonna write amusing conversation. Um, I don't, very strange. Okay. All right, let's continue. So the men turned from there and went toward Sodom, but Abraham stood still before the Lord. Then Abraham drew near and said, "Will you indeed sweep away the righteous with the wicked? Suppose there are 50 righteous within the city. Will you then sweep away the place and not spare it for the 50 righteous who are in it? Far be it from you to do such a thing, to put the righteous to death with the wicked, so that the righteous fare as the wicked. Far be that from you. Shall not the judge of all shall not the judge of all the earth do what is just?" Oh, oh, Abraham's getting a little spicy here with God. Good on him. The Lord said, "If I find at Sodom 50 righteous in the city, I will spare the whole place for their sake." Abraham answered and said, "Behold, I have undertaken to speak to the Lord. I am but dust." It's like I almost feel like he blurted this out. You know, he like, and then he's like, "Oh, oh crap, 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 crap." And behold, I have undertaken to speak to the Lord. I, I who am but dust and ashes. Suppose 5 of the 50 righteous are lacking. Will you destroy the whole city for lack of 5? Those 5 of the, what if it's 45? You know? And he said, "I will not destroy it if I find 45 there." Again he spoke to him and said, "Suppose 40 are found there." It just keeps like, just like, okay, well, what about 40? He's haggling. He's just haggling. "Suppose 40 are found there," answered. "Sake of 40, I will not do it." And he said, "Oh, let not the Lord be angry. I will speak. Suppose 30. 30 are found there." He answered, "I will not do it if I find 30 there." He said, "Behold, I have undertaken to speak to the Lord. Suppose 20 are found there." For the sake said, "Oh Lord, oh let not the Lord be angry, and I will speak again but this once. Suppose 10 are found there." He answered, "For the sake of 10, I will not destroy it." And the Lord went his way when he had finished speaking to Abraham, and Abraham returned to his place. Very, very interesting conversation here. uh, well, I like um, but specifically for Sodom, it seems like Gomorrah is getting left out of this deal. Oh, I guess Gomorrah might get left out if I find. Mm, but, mm. What's interesting is like I think Abraham. Um, Wait a minute, hold on. Will you indeed sweep away the righteous with the wicked? And then he doesn't wait for an answer. You know what I mean? Hold on, let's. Doesn't seem to wait for an answer. He just keeps going and makes his proposition. And then, like, shall not the judge do so? Well, Abraham probably has some people that he cares about in Sodom, if I had to guess, and he's very concerned about, because he doesn't seem to wait for an answer until he's finished his whole phrase and like going, little exclamation point right here, so that the righteous bears the wicked, which makes me wonder if, I mean, this does seem like, I mean, obviously the precedent, maybe Abraham is like thinking about what God did with the flood, from Halo. No, um, did what, with the flood. He's, I'm sure there are some righteous people alive during the flood, and you know what I mean. So maybe that's what he's going off of, because it seems like he's kind of like freaking out a little bit, and it doesn't seem like there's as far as we are aware, as far as what the text has informed us, there hasn't been any instance of God outside of the flood, after the flood, wiping people out. It's been a long time since the flood. Um, I don't know if that, I mean, maybe Abraham's drawing from that to consider that that might be the way that God deals with Sodom and Gomorrah, or just Sodom. That's possible. Possible. Considering the text, for just going by the text, that's probably what Abraham is referring to, and why he is concerned that that's going to happen to Sodom. Which, if that's what he's referencing to, fair. So, I mean, and but it's interesting that, yeah, I mean, okay, okay, I see you, I see you. All right. Anything else we want to do before we keep rolling? I'm just gonna write down, John. Petition. And again, this is where it's like, by the time all this stuff was like actually written down and put into like text, like this is the definitive edition, you could see there being like a bunch of these different like stories with similar sort of like through points, and that people at by the time they wrote it down weren't exactly sure which one was like the, they tried to kind of put it together, but since there are like, three or four different instances of like the same thing that God is essentially telling Abraham, it's very interesting how they just sort of like, well, we'll just keep it all. Like, let's, well, maybe they didn't keep it all. We don't know what they chose to leave out, but this is what they chose to put in, to the best of their understanding, with what had been passed down for so long. All right. Okay. All right. Quick token on a smoking, and then we'll have roughly 40 minutes left before I gotta roll. We'll see how far we get. We've gotten through what we started with chapter 9, and now we're about to do chapter 19. Pretty good. Pretty good. Not bad. All right. BRB. All right, we got 40 minutes. Let's finish strong here. All right. All right. Chapter 19, here we come. All right. Hopefully the audio is good. I hope so. Yeah, my previous stream yesterday, there were moments where it was like tick 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 tick, tick, like this ticking sound that I didn't know where that was coming from. I couldn't figure it out. Oh, I hear it now. Now it went away. I turned on my audio on the stream just to check it, and then I heard it there for a moment. So strange that like I flipped to the stream, just turned the audio on for a moment, and there it is. Well, I'll have to figure that out at some point, but the show must go on. All right. Hmm. All right, let's roll. Thinking maybe, I don't know, I'm a little, it's about this time, but we will push to our designated time. All right. Let's go. Chapter 19. All right. The two angels came to Sodom in the evening. The two angels. Hold on. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Came to Sodom in the evening. I was saying, sitting in the cave, Sodom Lot saw them. Rose to meet them and bowed himself. Wait, did God like go like the Lord went his way and the Lord, decided, well, I'll just send maybe the two men that were with him were angels. Three men. Then God decides, I'll just have my two angels go, actually, and check it out. Because then we get to the two angels came to Sodom in the evening, and Lot was sitting in the gate of Sodom. When Lot saw them, he rose to meet them and bowed himself with his face to the earth. And said, My lords, please turn aside to your servant's house and spend the night and wash your feet. Then you may rise up early and go on your way. They said, No, we will spend the night in the town square. But he pressed them strongly, so they turned aside to him and entered his house. And he made them a feast and baked unleavened bread, and they ate. But before they lay down, the men of the city, the men of Sodom, both young and old, all the people to the last man, surrounded the house. And they called to Lot, Where are the men who came to you tonight? Bring them to us, that we may know them. Lot went out to the men at the entrance, shut the door after him, and said, I beg you, my brothers, do not act so wickedly. Behold, I have two daughters who have not known. Oh, see, so that we may know them means sexual relations, as you see, who have not known any man. I wonder, hold on, the two angels came. Lot was so Lot was most likely expecting them. Like a messenger probably reached him from Abraham, if I had to guess, because he's sitting at the gate, like waiting for them to arrive. Clearly, he does not want them to go into the city without him accompanying them. And he, addressed them. He knows who they are. He's been expecting them, clearly. Unless they just had wings behind them, which I highly doubt. But maybe they just had well, it was just understood that they were angels, and Lot understood that they were arriving, because that would make sense. Unless Lot is the one that just sits out in front of the gate all day, every day. And then, do not act so wickedly. Please do not try to have relations with these men. Should have just been like, yo, guys, they're angels. They're angels. You're not, don't mess with them. Would have been a key detail that might have persuaded them otherwise, but here we are. Maybe that comes out later. Behold, I have $2. Oh my gosh. Ugh. $2 you have not known any men. Let me bring them out to you, and do to them as you please. Only do nothing to these men, for they have come under the shelter of my roof. Gosh. They said, stand back. And they said, this fellow came to sojourn, and he has become the judge. Now we will deal worse with you than with them. He has come. Okay. Then they pressed hard against the man Lot, and drew near to break down the door. Good Lord. But the men reached out their hands and brought Lot into the house with them and shut the door. And they struck with blindness the men who were at the entrance of the house, both small and great, so that they wore themselves out, groping for the door, reaching for the door. Groping. It worked. Then the men said to Lot, have you anyone else here? Sons-in-law, sons, daughters, or anyone you have in the city, bring them out of the place. For we are about to destroy this place, because the outcry against its people has become great before the Lord, and the Lord has sent us to destroy it. Oh, then the men, okay, the angels. Why'd you 2 angels? Call them angels. It's confusing. Okay, I'm guessing reached out their hands and they struck with blindness. What? Okay, let's just keep going. All right. For we are about to destroy this place, because the outcry against its people has become great before the Lord, and the Lord has sent us to destroy it. So, despite maybe God had already been like, I can't find. Look, we looked for 10 men, and we couldn't find 10 people. Couldn't find 10 righteous people. Now, because Lot is there, it kind of makes sense that Abraham is so concerned because his nephew is there, Lot. Okay, that checks out why such concern. Stand back. It's hard. All right. So it has already been determined. The Lord has sent us to destroy it, because 10 righteous people could not be found. So Lot went out and said to his sons-in-law who were to marry his daughters. Wait a minute. Oh my gosh, he was gonna. Dude, if I was his son-in-law, I would be quite upset that he almost sent my betrothed out to be defiled by, yeah, up, get out of, or maybe he has just two daughters that hadn't known men. Maybe those aren't the same daughters. Maybe, up, get out of this place, for the Lord is about to destroy the city. But he seemed to his sons-in-law to be jesting. As morning dawned, the angels urged Lot, saying, Up, take your wife and your two daughters who are here, lest you be swept up away in punishment of the city. Again, I don't know if those are the same daughters. Like those daughters are choosing to stay with sons-in-law, and then he has two daughters that have not been have not been betrothed, you know. But he lingered. So the men seized him and his wife and his two daughters by the hand, the Lord being merciful to him, and they brought him out and set him outside the city. And as they brought them out, one said, Escape for your life. Do not look back or stop anywhere in the valley. Escape to the hills, lest you be swept away. And Lot said to them, Oh, no, my lords. Oh, no, my lords. Behold, your servant has found favor in your sight, and you have shown me great kindness in saving my life. But I cannot escape to the hills, lest the disaster overtake me and I die. Okay. Behold, the city is near enough to flee to, and it is a little one. Let me escape there. Is it not a little one? Hmm? My life will be saved. He said to him, Behold, I grant you this favor also, that I will not overthrow the city of which you have spoken. Escape there quickly, for I can do nothing till you arrive there. Therefore the name of the city was called Zorah. Okay. Yeah. All right. So basically, Lot was the only one that was spared because everybody else be wicked. I guess Lot wasn't wicked for offering his two daughters. Guess not. So it's not wicked. Okay. Interesting. All right. The sun had risen on the earth when Lot came to Zorah. Then the Lord rained on Sodom and Gomorrah sulfur and fire from the Lord out of heaven, and he overthrew those cities, and all the valley, and all the inhabitants of the cities, and what grew on the ground. But Lot's wife behind him looked back, and she became a pillar of salt. And Abraham went early in the morning to the place where he had stood before the Lord. And he looked down toward Sodom and Gomorrah and toward all the land of the valley. And he looked, and behold, the smoke of the land went up like smoke of a furnace. So it was that when God destroyed the cities of the valley, God remembered Abraham and sent Lot out of the midst of the overthrow when he overthrew the cities in which Lot had lived. Now Lot went up out of Zorah and lived in the hills with his two daughters, for he was afraid to live in Zorah, so he lived in a cave with his two daughters. Let me go to this city. I'm afraid to live there. Strange. And the firstborn said to the younger, Our father is old, and there is not a man on earth to come into us after the manner of all the earth. Come, let us make our father drink wine, and we will lie with him, that we may preserve offspring for our father. So they made their father drink wine that night. And the firstborn went in and lay with their father. He did not know when she lay down or when she arose. The next day the firstborn said to them, Behold, I lay last night with my father, our father. Let us make him drink wine tonight as well. Then you go in and lie with him, that we may preserve offspring for our father. So they made their father drink wine as well. And the younger arose and lay with him. And he did not know when she lay down or arose. Gosh, and blackout freaking drunk. Thus, both daughters of Lot became pregnant by their father. The firstborn bore a son, called his name Moab. He is the father of the Moabites to this day. Whatever day this was, that like the younger also bore son, his name Benami. He is the father of the Amorites to this day. Whatever day that day was a Tuesday. Oh my gosh. Okay. uh, Very well. Chapter 19. It's just such a strange happening. So strange. Let me bring that out to you. Like, are we supposed to look at Lot's actions with offering his two daughters as like, yeah, that seems like the a wise course of action? Did he consult with his daughters and his daughters like, yeah, sure, we'll do it? Or did his daughters be like, let us go out there? I don't know. It seemed a little on the, you know, that maybe his daughters didn't have the best moral compass. So maybe they were the ones that were willing to do so. And so therefore it's not necessarily Lot who's necessarily at fault because his daughters, had already certain inclinations that befit the situation. um, Despite the fact that he had, at least in that moment, their potential. I don't know. This is just so strange. I mean, the fact that he doesn't explain to like the mob, the group of people, like, hey, these are angels of God, like that might have maybe that look, just because the text doesn't say it doesn't mean it didn't happen. Maybe it just wasn't included in the text. I don't know. Um, hmm. Also, it seems like Lot was determined to be the only righteous one to save. Um, hmm. Because by the time, again, this like connection between like two angels, when before angels show up, and in the previous chapter, after God had 2 other men with them. So it looks like if we connect the dots here, you know, it would make sense that the 2 other men with God in chapter 8 are these 2 angels. Hmm. And by the time the angels arrived, God had already made his determination. Where is that? Time to write this down. Yeah. We are about to destroy this place. Like it is a done deal. There's no squeaking out of this. Because the outcry against its people has become great before the Lord. So the city might have been known to be like maybe raiding the people in the area, people, just doing all forms of wickedness, clearly, they're just like, oh, newcomers, let's get down and dirty, whether they want it or not. Gay. Let's see. Huh. Kind of first instance of any kind of homosexuality. And first instance of incest. I mean, if you don't count, Adam and Eve, but after post-flood, and also clearly they knew that what they were doing would not be approved by their father because they had to get blackout drunk, you know. Um, um, maybe Lot turned into like a drunk because he lost his wife. You know what I mean? This seemed like something that like might have been a typical occurrence for him. And also he's living in a cave, with his daughters and they're like getting kind of desperate. Um mm, our father is old and there's not a man on earth to come into us after the manner of all the earth. Weird phrasing. Like, couldn't they just be like, yo, Pops, we need to go to Zora and you need to find us some freaking husbands, bro. You know? he was now, hold on. Yeah, then the Lord reigned on Sodom. Lots behind it. Look back. Yeah. Also, what? Hold on. That we may preserve offspring. There's no man, for he was afraid to live in Zorah. That's afraid. I don't know. It sounds like maybe he got really freaking depressed after he lost his wife. That would make more sense than him being afraid to live in a city. I don't know. Maybe Zorah reminded him too much of Sodom. The fact that he'd been living there for all this time, it's like if all these people were wicked, Lot, why are you still there? What are you doing? Just move. Move. Hey, this is such a problem. I don't know. I mean, very strange. Let's get out of here. All right. Yeah, I'd take this. I mean, this is straight up. I mean, use a modern term, alcoholic behavior. Somebody who's been to rehab twice. I know it when I see it. Oh man. Yeah, this. Yeah, I mean, my conclusion is that he's depressed from losing his wife and maybe clinically depressed and becoming an alcoholic and not letting his daughters actually, or not doing anything to help his daughters um find husbands. So they took it upon themselves. Just wild. Okay. I think I think we're good here. I think we're going to um stop for the day right here. We're at 3:50 my time. And usually I go to 4, but I don't want to I don't want to start a new chapter here with just 10 minutes. All right. Okay. Well, with this, they might actually, maybe the people had some understanding of what they were there to do. And maybe they thought if they killed the messengers, then therefore they they would avoid the punishment, maybe? Or that they wouldn't return to, I don't know. That the message wouldn't come back, but then that leaves a lot of suspicion why they return. Oh, wasn't us? Who knows? Who knows? A lot of people disappear on the dangerous roads around here. A lot of bandits around. We would never lay a hand on such messengers of God. That would be wild. Again, there's also just an idea of angels generally just means messengers from God. Could be And we've already established that there is some, not necessarily priestly class, but people who would be worth the title of priest. Now, is that a term being, in hindsight, being put on, like in chapter 14, we have the first instance of a priest being mentioned. Is that a title being used by people who first wrote it down? They kind of put that on there, like they get sort of like so hard to say, hard to say. But we're gonna go off that these are spiritual beings, because that I believe is what is meant to be taken away from this. Then again, we're all spiritual beings, so um, but yeah, like angels. You get what I'm saying. All right. Well, if you chose to watch this all the way to the end, thank you very much. Please like and subscribe. Um, and I'll have more on the way. I stream every Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday from noon to 4 p.m. Central Time, USA Central Time for those who look. If I have this accent, where else would I be from? Let's be honest. Um, so yeah. I hope you have a wonderful day, and I hope you have a wonderful life. Have a good one.